Good morning and welcome to the live stream. And so today we are going to be talking about various concepts, histories and ideologies aimed at expanding the mind to bring you to your own conclusions, right? So we are going to be talking about various things like vaccines and the concepts on medicine in the aspect of understanding what really causes disease. And the background of this is because I feel like there has been lack of clear understanding. The layman lacks sufficient understanding about what really promotes or what really underlies the decisions that doctors make. And I strongly feel that, you see, science should be accessible by all. Science should not be something confined or just left or for the privileged few. Yeah, it should not be closed in rooms and just under the guise of laboratory experiments. In other words, I'm saying true science should be able to be experienced by everyone. So without further ado, let me go first to the first slide. So let's go to the first topic. Let's talk vaccines. And there's been a lot of debate concerning the issue. And so I want us to tackle this topic in a way that we start from a plain slate. We'll be talking about what are vaccines? How do vaccines work? What are some of the effects of vaccines? How are vaccines made? Yeah. So welcome. And I hope you enjoy what I've prepared for you, because I've done quite some research for the past, I think 2 months or so. So I hope you enjoy. So let's go straight to what are vaccines. A vaccine, as you can see there, is a substance used to stimulate the production of antibodies and provide immunity against one or several diseases, prepared from a causative agent of a disease, its products, or a synthetic substitute, treated to act as an antigen without inducing the disease. Okay, so the key words here is that a vaccine is a substance used to stimulate the production of antibodies and provide immunity against one or several diseases. And it's also important to note that it's prepared from the causative agent of the disease, its products or synthetic substitute. For example, a malaria vaccine may be prepared from the causative agent of the disease, which would be the malarial parasites. Yeah. Let's look at another definition. They say that a vaccine is a biological preparation that provides active acquired immunity to a particular infectious disease. A vaccine typically contains an agent that resembles a disease-causing microorganism, and is often made from weakened or killed forms of the microbe, its toxins, or one of its surface proteins. Wow, so what have we gotten from that first slide? So we've learned that, first of all, a vaccine is a biological preparation prepared and aimed at providing acquired immunity. Yeah, acquired immunity to a disease. So you'll understand why I've put acquired immunity in quotes as we proceed. So how does it work? Typically they say that they use weakened or diseased microorganisms, its toxins or resurface proteins, to make the vaccine. And once this preparation is ready, it is injected into the body. And once injected, the body is supposed to recognize this weakened disease or weakened microorganism as a threat and correspondingly produce antibodies to fight the threat. Okay? So once you produce these so-called antibodies, you are then said to be immune to the disease. So let us look at some of the effects of vaccines. What are some of the intended consequences of vaccines? So I got this excerpt from Wikipedia, where they say that there is overwhelming scientific consensus. Yeah, that's very important. Scientific consensus. Consensus is simply another word for agreement. Yeah, so we can say once again say that there is overwhelming scientific agreement, yeah, that vaccines are a very safe and effective way to fight and eradicate infectious diseases. Okay. The immune system recognizes vaccine agents as foreign, destroys them, and remembers them. When the virulent version of an agent is encountered, the body recognizes the protein coat on the virus and thus is prepared to respond by first neutralizing the target agent before it can enter cells, and secondly, by recognizing and destroying infected cells before that agent can multiply to vast numbers. Okay, so they say that once this preparation with a weakened microorganism that causes disease, the body recognizes it and is prepared to respond by neutralizing the target agent before it can enter cells, and then destroying the cells before they multiply to vast numbers. Okay, let's continue. So limitations to the effectiveness nevertheless exist. Okay, limitations to the effectiveness of vaccines nevertheless exist. Sometimes protection fails because of vaccine-related failure, such as failures in vaccine attenuation. What is attenuation? I got you guys. So attenuation is simply the reduction of force. If you look at the upper right corner, the reduction of the force, effect, or value of something. Okay, so they say that sometimes protection fails because of vaccine-related failures, such as failures in the reduction of the force of vaccines. That's what they mean when they say vaccine attenuation. They might also fail because of vaccination regimes or administration or host-related failure due to the host's immune system simply not responding adequately or at all. So lack of response commonly results from genetics, immune status, age, or nutritional status. This statement is very important. They say that the lack of the desired response, the desired response is the body producing antibodies against the weakened microorganism that has been injected in you. So they say that the lack of response, the lack of your body producing antibodies to fight the disease, commonly results from genetics. Yeah? Genetics, immune status, age, health, or nutritional status. So this is something very alarming, because the immune system is supposed to recognize the threat. Okay? Yet the ineffectiveness of vaccines, the failure of vaccines is blamed on you. This is what this statement means. Lack of response commonly results from genetics, immune status, yeah, immune status, and age, health, or nutritional status. So basically what they're saying is that if these vaccines work, then it is our genius as manufacturers and scientists. However, if it does not work, then you are at fault. Yeah, you are the problem. Yeah, you are beyond salvation, because it's supposed to work, but it's not working. Therefore, maybe it's your genetics, it's your hereditary factors, it is your health that is poor, maybe you're too old. So this is something quite alarming for me, honestly, because it's double standards, double standards, so to say. And maybe to make the example ring home, I can use an analogy. So let's say I have a security firm offering security services. I then tell you that listen up. I have a security firm offering security services. I lease watchmen. Yeah, that's what a normal security service firm does, right? So instead of that, what will you think if I tell you that I will be sending thieves into your house? Instead of giving you watchmen, I'll be sending you thieves into your house. However, listen up. These thieves are weakly, are not so strong. They're not well armed. Yeah, you can fight them. Yeah, and that from your encounter with the thieves, yeah, when you try to defend yourself from the thieves, you will develop acquired experience in dealing with the thieves. Will you accept such a deal? Think about this. Listen up once more. I have a security firm. Normally, I'm supposed to offer security services by giving you watchmen to guard your premises. However, what will you think of me if I tell you that instead of sending you watchmen, I'll be sending you thieves into your house? However, I tell you, these thieves are not so strong. You can fight them off, yeah? And that from your encounter with the thieves, you will develop, quote unquote, acquired experience in dealing with the thieves. Would you accept such a deal? Yeah, that's something to think about. So I want us to watch some two videos I came across in YouTube, and they are quite disturbing and revealing, because for example, in this first video, you'll notice the case of a child who, once he got the MMR vaccine, started exhibiting various symptoms. Let me just play the video and you'll be the judge. Yeah, this kind of videos you can't find them really on mainstream media, but let me play it and you'll see.
Nana, look at me. Look at me.
3-year-old Indiana is in intensive therapy.
Look at me. Look at me.
It's a daily struggle for his parents to simply reach their son, who they've lost to autism.
Look at me.
He's just sits there, or spins around, and just not communicating at all, like a zombie.
Look at me.
The difference is startling. Fleur and Grant Hume say this home video of their son shows a bubbly toddler developing normally.
Oh, he was just the most interactive little boy.
He was so playful. He was always just running around, running up to you, hugging you. And we thought he was actually developing early because his speech really started coming on really quickly. And we thought, oh yeah, we've got a genius on our hands. Touch tummy.
Just after his first birthday, Indiana changed, withdrawing completely.
It's pretty heart-wrenching as a parent to see that. You look at your child and you think, where's my little happy boy gone? Where's he gone?
So what happened?
Within 2 weeks of the MMR injection, he had such a profound change of his personality.
And language loss. His speech really dropped off.
Yeah.
Look at me.
Indiana is not alone.
If you believe the MMR vaccine contributed to cause your child's autism, please stand up and raise your hand.
There are thousands of parents who are all saying the same thing, that the triple antigen, MMR, is to blame for their children's autism.
In 1995, 96, I started getting calls from parents who said my child was developing.
Okay, let me stop there. So, you can see that from this video, the father and the mother of that child confirm that the child was perfectly okay before getting a vaccine shot. Yeah, but just within 2 weeks after the MMR vaccine is the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. Just 2 weeks after getting the vaccine, the child started exhibiting strange symptoms. Yeah, you've had the father saying loss of language. You've had loss of attention. You've even seen how the child has to constantly be called, hey, 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 hey. Yeah. You notice the child is withdrawing, behaving in a weird manner. Yeah. Stuttering speech. Yeah. And this is quite disturbing because such cases are really not accounted for. Yeah. Such cases are swept under the carpet. And personally, I think it's really alarming that how many other cases don't we know of such an example? Yeah. For example, I have a neighbor whose child also stammers, and I can't help but think, could it be because of a vaccine that the child took as an infant? Yeah. So it's really alarming. I want us to look at this second video, where you will basically see a mother who's the head of a national vaccine information center honestly give a honest remark on the vaccines. This is a video from 2008, and let me just play it. And
in 2008, already over 130 cases of measles, the biggest outbreak since 1996. And the CDC is blaming these pockets of children where there are communities where parents are choosing not to vaccinate their kids. And this is a real concern for us.
Right, this is probably one of the biggest vaccine questions, because the measles vaccine, actually the MMR, which is part of the measles, that's probably one of the biggest controversial vaccines. Maybe 10 years ago, this thing with autism came up, but that really seems to have settled down a lot. You know, most of the evidence linking measles with autism is kind of settled down, and most of the doctors and scientists agree that it probably isn't the major cause. But I still have a lot of parents coming into my office saying, I want to get vaccines, but I don't want to get that one. And I say, okay, well, let's talk about it. What are the risks of measles? Most people don't know. 1 out of every 1,000 kids that get measles will die. It can be a fatal illness. It is very, very contagious.
Now, tell us what the measles are, because most people have never seen it.
Many times it's a mild illness. You get this terrible rash and fever and terrible cold symptoms, and your child is miserable, cough. But in some kids, it can be much, much more severe than that and fatal.
That's a great point. We do have a guest. Barbara Lowe Fisher is here from the National Vaccine Information Center. I want you to give us your opinion. Is this measles outbreak something that you look at and think, well, whoa, we need to be careful here about the message we're sending to moms? Because if they don't vaccinate, we could have a measles outbreak, and it could become an epidemic where, like years ago, 4 million people are getting the measles.
Yeah, so let me explain what's happening up to this point. So we have a panel of doctors that you've seen, yeah? This panel of doctors right there. And basically they're discussing how, of course, how important it is to vaccinate children in America against measles, yeah? And they're arguing the case for measles. And so basically they invited this lady from the National Vaccine Information Center. And in my mind, I'm thinking that they expected a certain response from her. But to their surprise, just listen to what this mother had to say, this lady had to say in response to this panel of doctors.
Well, I mean, I have to come from the perspective of a parent who has a vaccine-injured child. I mean, in 1980, I took my bright, healthy, precocious little 2.5-year-old boy in for a 4th DPT shot. and within hours of that shot, I witnessed him suffer a convulsion, a collapse shock, a state of unconsciousness, and he was eventually diagnosed with minimal brain damage, including multiple learning disabilities and attention deficit disorder. With regard to measles, 131 cases of measles out of 300 million people is not an epidemic. We have a 98% vaccination rate.
It's not an epidemic because kids are being vaccinated.
Okay, we have more than tripled the numbers of doses of vaccines we're giving our children in the last quarter century. At the same time, we have seen children become disabled and chronically ill. 1 in 6 child in America is now learning disabled. 1 in 9 has asthma. 1 in 100 to 150 develops autism. 1 in 450 has diabetes. That's the big question. Why are so many highly vaccinated children so sick?
And let's quickly explain how a vaccine works.
The vaccine, basically, it's an injection.
Hey, did you catch that? Did you catch that? That lady was so confident in expressing her case, you know. She asked them, why are so many children who are getting vaccinated becoming sick? And you notice how these doctors have ignored that lady. They've basically ignored her. Yeah? Let me play that once more so you can catch that. They've ignored this lady.
6 child in America is now learning disabled. 1 in 9 has asthma. 1 in 100 to 150 develops autism. 1 in 450 has diabetes. That's the big question. Why are so many highly vaccinated children so sick?
And let's quickly explain how a vaccine works.
The vaccine.
Let's quickly explain how a vaccine works. After you've just been asked, how come many children who are getting vaccinated are showing strange symptoms? Yeah? You've noticed that from these 2 videos I've played, these parents are complaining that their children are exhibiting symptoms. Language loss, loss of attention, withdrawal from the parents, stuttering speech. Other parent has mentioned convulsions within 2 hours of the vaccine, and shock, and brain damage. There are similar stories in the rest of this first video, but I'll attach the links to the video in the description below so you can see for yourself, okay? So you notice that if you're not careful, these vaccines are capable of irreparable damage to innocent children, yeah? I mean, think about this. What could it mean if a child could live free from brain damage, which was caused by a vaccine? I mean, having to live with an inflicted disability that could have otherwise been done away with. Yeah. So we notice that there are numerous complaints from parents of innocent children. Yeah. However, it appears to me that there appears to be an interest in maintaining the status quo. Yeah. There appears to be an interest in hiding or not bringing to the light the reviews of parents. And if this science cannot be, listen to this, if the science cannot rely on the feedback of parents, but rather decides to live in the clouds that these vaccines are perfect, but it's not grounded in the experiences of these parents, parents of these children, then we can say that this science is foreign to us. We can say that this science is not applicable or does not apply to us. Yeah. Let's go to the next slide. So, vaccines are the brainchild of the germ theory. I'm gonna let that sink in. Vaccines are the brainchild of the germ theory. So what is the germ theory? So according to Wikipedia, the germ theory of disease is the currently accepted scientific theory for many diseases. It states that microorganisms known as pathogens or germs can lead to disease. Again, you notice that this is the currently accepted, yeah? Accepted. So it's consensus based. And another thing you'll notice that it's a scientific theory, yeah? I'll be talking about theoretical science in a few. So once again, we get that the germ theory is the currently accepted scientific theory for many diseases. It states that microorganisms known as pathogens or germs can lead to disease. So these organisms, too small to see without magnification, invade humans, other animals, and other living hosts. And their growth and reproduction within their hosts can cause disease. The germ here may refer not just a bacterium, but to any type of microorganism such as protozoa, fungi, or even non-living pathogens that can cause disease, such as viruses, yeah, prions or viroids. So they are saying that germs not only refer to bacteria, but they also refer to protozoa or fungi or viruses or prions or viroids. Diseases caused by pathogens or germs are called infectious diseases. Even when a pathogen is the principal cause of disease, environmental and hereditary factors influence the severity of the disease and whether a potential host individual becomes infected when exposed to the pathogen. Again, you see here that they say that environmental and hereditary factors influence the severity of a disease. For example, they might say that if you have a cholera, for example, yeah, that certain environmental factors or environmental conditions and your hereditary factors, your genetics, may influence the severity of the disease. Okay, so I want to present you this question. Think about this. You have a sick fish that has been staying in this bowl. Yeah? Let me start again. You have this bowl here, this first bowl here. As you can see, it contains dirty water. But inside, there is a fish. This bowl contains stale water that has not been changed for years. As a result, the fish has become sick from staying in this stale water for a very long time. So, I have a question. You have a sick fish. How do you treat it? So, theory 1. Would you medicate the fish but still keep it in this bowl of dirty water? Or would you clean the tank? Yeah? If it was me, of course, I'd go for cleaning the tank. Yeah? I don't know, how about you? Will you medicate, will you vaccinate the fish and keep it in this bowl of dirty water? Or would you transfer the fish to a cleaner tank with cleaner water and let the fish thrive in a new environment? Something, what we call food for thought. Let's move on. So let's understand this germ theory. So what's this germ theory telling us? That there exists different types of germs. Different types of germs, also called pathogens. And germs include all bacteria, fungi, protozoa, viruses, and viroids. It states that these germs, too small to be seen by the naked eye, are constantly trying to invade the body and cause diseases. Okay? They also state that when these germs invade the body, they cause abnormal body functioning shown through various symptoms specific to that pathogen. In other words, each germ and its own disease. Okay? So from the logic behind this theory is that through a certain set of symptoms, we can be able to diagnose which specific pathogen, which specific bacteria, which specific virus, which specific germ has caused that disease. And from that we can say that you are suffering from malaria and not typhoid. You're suffering from cholera and not measles. Yeah. So this is also another understanding behind. And finally, they say that by killing each specific germ that causes a particular disease, by killing each specific germ that causes a particular disease, you will have cured the disease. For example, the germ theory supposes that if you're suffering from cholera, if you kill the specific agent causing cholera, which is Vibrio cholerae, if you kill that specific germ, you will have cured the disease, right? Right. So let's continue. Let's understand this theory. Follow me. So the germ theory has its roots from various theorists like Louis Pasteur and Robert Koch. This Louis Pasteur is the man behind the pasteurization of milk. This is the guy. So these are the proponents of this germ theory. And so this Robert Koch was his German counterpart. And he explained the germ theory as follows. Yeah, he gave a set of consistencies that must follow from the germ theory. Yeah, so let us follow them through together. Number one, he says that the microorganism must be found in abundance in all organisms suffering from the disease, but should not be found in healthy organisms, right? In other words, for example, let's take the case of cholera. The Vibrio cholerae bacteria must be found in abundance in all organisms suffering from cholera, but should not be found in healthy persons. In other words, a healthy person should not have the microorganism, Vibrio cholerae. Okay? Number two, the microorganism must be isolated from a diseased organism and grown in pure culture. In other words, he's saying that one should be able to isolate a certain bacteria, a certain germ, a certain virus, and it should be able to be grown in pure culture. Yeah. Number three, the cultured microorganism should cause disease when introduced into a healthy organism. Okay, so you're saying basically if they take this culture is a solution or what do we call it? A plate containing grown or cultivated bacteria. Basically, they take one bacteria and give it all the conditions for survival, food, water, and of course they will reproduce with time. So that whole composition is what we call a culture. So they say that once this cultured microorganism that is grown in a plate in a laboratory is introduced into a healthy person, it should cause disease. If they take this Vibrio cholerae that was grown in the laboratory and introduce it into a healthy person, that healthy person should turn sick. That's what it's saying. The cultured microorganism should cause disease when introduced into a healthy organism. And finally, the microorganism must be re-isolated from the inoculated, diseased experimental host and identified as being identical to the original specific agent. Yeah? So in other words, they're saying that if they take the Vibrio cholerae in one person, it should be identical to the Vibrio cholerae taken from another person. It should be consistent. Yeah? So these are the logical assumptions that should follow from the germ theory. So let's continue from this. I found this interesting. However, Koch abandoned the universalist requirement of the first postulate. What was the first postulate? that the microorganism must be found in abundance in all organisms suffering from the disease, but should not be found in healthy organisms. So Koch abandoned this postulate. Why? He abandoned it when he discovered asymptomatic carriers of cholera. Can you imagine? This first postulate says that the microorganism should not be found in a healthy individual. However, Koch abandoned this universalist requirement when he discovered that there are asymptomatic carriers of cholera. In other words, you are sick. You are not sick, yet you have the causative agent of the disease. Yeah? I mean, where's the consistency? Yeah? So, let's continue. And later, typhoid fever. So basically, this is saying that he discovered that there are individuals carry this causative agents of disease, the causative agent of cholera and typhoid, but yet they are healthy. Yeah? So, if someone can have the bacteria that causes the disease, but yet is not sick, or rather is healthy, then is it safe to say that maybe it's not that germ causing the disease, but rather the something else, right? Because for something to be true, it has to be consistent. If the bacteria is causing disease in person A, it should cause disease in person B. Let's continue. Asymptomatic or subclinical infection carriers are now known to be a common feature of many infectious diseases. This statement is so important. Asymptomatic or clinical infection carriers are now known to be a common feature. In other words, they've discovered that, let me finish the statement, especially viruses such as polio, herpes simplex, HIV, and hepatitis C. As a specific example, all doctors and virologists agree that poliovirus causes paralysis in just a few infected subjects. And the success of polio vaccine in preventing disease supports the conviction that poliovirus is the causative agent. What a contradicting statement. They are saying that poliovirus, for example, they are saying, as a specific example, all doctors and virologists agree that poliovirus, the causative agent of polio, causes paralysis in just a few subjects. Yeah? Again, it's inconsistent. This is inconsistent. If the poliovirus is allegedly causes paralysis in a few infected subjects, but not in others, then it's safe to conclude that perhaps it's not the poliovirus causing the paralysis because it's not consistent. Yeah? Let's continue to this third postulate. The third postulate specifies should, not must. What was the third postulate? Number 3. That the cultured microorganism should cause disease when introduced into a healthy organism. Okay? So, he said should and not must. Because as Koch himself proved in regard both tuberculosis and cholera, not all organisms exposed to an infectious agent will acquire the infection. Bomb please. They're saying, Koch said that if the cultured microorganism, and we took the example of Vibrio cholerae that causes cholera, if the cultured Vibrio cholerae is introduced into a healthy organism, it should cause disease in the healthy person. However, what's this saying? Not all organisms, right here, because as Koch himself proved in regard to both tuberculosis and cholera, not all organisms exposed to an infectious agent will acquire the infection. Why? 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 Here's what they have to say. That non-infection may be due to factors such as general health, proper immune functioning, acquired immunity from previous exposure, or genetic immunity, as with the resistance to malaria conferred by possessing at least one sickle cell allele. So you notice that this third postulate is basically fake. The first postulate has already been debunked. Okay? The third postulate has already been debunked by this statement, because not all organisms exposed to an infectious agent, infectious agent like Vibrio cholerae or bacteria and viruses like even coronavirus, not all individuals exposed to an infectious agent might acquire the infection. So again, this theory is not consistent. For something to be true, for something to hold, it must be consistent across the board. If a disease causes if an infectious agent is supposed to cause a disease in person A, it should do the same in person B. For example, another example I'll give you is the H. pylori. Yeah. Personally, I thought that H. pylori is supposed to cause ulcers, and that it should be in the sick patient and not in a healthy patient who does not suffer from ulcers. However, I have concrete evidence to show that H. pylori is indeed found in healthy persons. Much more so that these scientists conclude that Helicobacter pylori are indigenous biota of the human stomach. Okay? Let me read this highlighted statement here. That studies of humans who have had little contact with modern civilization indicate that virtually all carry H. pylori. All humans carry H. pylori, and sometimes Helicobacter heilmanni as well. By the age of 10, most people, more than 80% in developing countries, have serological evidence of carriage of H. pylori. Okay? This is very, very important. Why? Because it debunks these postulates by Robert Koch, yeah, where he's saying that the microorganism must be found in all organisms suffering from the disease, but should not be found in healthy organisms. But here we are saying that all humans carry H. pylori. However, not everyone suffers from ulcers. Right now, I'm not suffering from ulcers. I'm not feeling any pain. But yet, I have H. pylori inside of me. Yeah? So, of course, you'll understand why I'm saying that it's not consistent. Yeah? In other words, perhaps we can start to accommodate the thought that perhaps it's not the H. pylori causing the illness. Okay? So let's continue. Let's point out the contradictions. Number 1, all individuals exposed to the infectious agent must get sick from the infectious agent. However, in reality, this is shown not to be the case. All individuals exposed to the bacteria, to the virus, to the Vibrio cholerae must get sick, according to Koch. All individuals having H. pylori, which causes ulcers, which they say causes ulcers, must get sick from that H. pylori. However, in reality, this is shown not to be the case. As you've seen in this article I've sent here, I've shared with you, they say that all humans carry H. pylori. They've even told you in this other slide that Koch abandoned this universal requirement when he discovered asymptomatic carriers of cholera. In other words, he discovered that there are people who carry cholera causative agents inside of them, and yet they are not sick. Think about this too. Number 2, the notion of asymptomatic carriers. They invented this word, asymptomatic carriers of disease. Implies that individuals can be sick because they have the causative agent, but yet at the same time they are not sick because they don't exhibit symptoms. Come on, guys, this is not rational. How can you be sick and not sick at the same time? How can you be inside and outside at the same time? How can you be up and down at the same time? How can you be dead and alive at the same damn time? Finally, the bacteria present in the sick individual should be entirely absent in the healthy individual. However, as we have seen, it's not the case. Yeah, they're saying that the bacteria present in the sick individual should be entirely absent in the healthy individual. But as you've seen in the previous 2 slides, since all humans carry H. pylori, yeah, but yet they attribute ulcers to people who have H. pylori, yet all humans carry H. pylori, but not all humans are suffering from ulcers, then we have an inconsistent theory here, ladies and gentlemen. We have an inconsistent theory. And something that's inconsistent is not true. It does not hold water. Yeah? Let's continue. So why is this important? A proper understanding as to what really causes disease is very important. We cannot afford to base our health systems on theories that have no bearing on reality. Yeah? Let's proceed. An improper understanding on the cause of disease leads to the invention of powerless, worsening, and wrong remedies. You can imagine you're sick, but you don't know what's causing your illness. And due to your lack of knowledge, you come to invent powerless methods of countering the disease. And some of these remedies that you invent might have an effect of exacerbating or worsening a condition because of ignorance. You don't know what really causes disease, so you invent your own powerless and wrong remedies. So we really need to understand what really causes disease, because this is the root of the matter. Yeah? This is the crux of the matter. So over time, over the course of civilization, there have been different concepts on what causes disease. At a time, there was the demonic theory. People believe that sickness comes from evil spirits which are pursuing dangerous actions. Yeah. So a sick person was basically thought to be demonically possessed. Yeah. So if you follow the course of history, you learn that early Christians adopted this, believing this theory, went about carrying campaigns against civilizations. In other words, if you are sick, you are thought to be a demon. Can you imagine? At another time, there came to be the punitive theory, that sickness depended upon your attitude towards a deity, towards God, or a spiritual force, if you believed in one. Yeah. So if you are sick, it was basically God's way of punishing you for maybe your wrong actions. Yeah. So the sick were deemed so because their actions merited their condition. In other words, if you are sick, you deserved to be sick. That is what some people believed at a time and long ago. Another theory was the humoral theory. The humoral theory, which stated that sickness comes from an imbalance in any of the 4 bodily humors. Ladies and gentlemen, there are 4 bodily humors, which are phlegm, kikohozi, yellow bile, black bile, and blood. So they were saying that if there was an imbalance in any of the 4 humors of the body, blood, bile, and phlegm, yeah, then you are said to be sick, or that was what caused your sickness. Another theory which came to be thought about was the miasma theory. This was the predominant theory in Europe, where they thought that sickness came from the air of dead bodies and swamps. Basically, if you see, before they learned how to bury the dead, so these fumes from dead bodies, coming to their villages where they stayed, they are thought to cause disease. You can search it up. There was another one called the multifactorial theory, or other words, a combination of factors ranging from nutritional deficiency, poor metabolism, genetics, and immunology. In other words, there are a whole combination of forces that leads to one becoming sick. And finally, this contagion theory, which basically says that all diseases are communicable and transferable from a sick person to a healthy person. This later became the germ theory, which we now is, as you know, is the currently accepted consensus-based theory of what causes disease. But there is another perspective which is not really captured, and this basically is what, for example, our ancestors believed, which basically was that disease was a phenomenon attributed to cosmic events. Lack of holistic life practices. You see, your physical body is not just the physical. You have a spiritual side, you have a mental side, and these spiritual sides and mental side also have needs. So when an individual became sick, it was not just attributed to some bacteria or some physical agent. There were some spiritual interpretations of what causes disease. There also it was also thought that a lack of holistic life practices, holistic life practices means like good diet, good environment, exercising, talking with people. These are holistic. You see, you're not just a body of meat. You are a holistic, a complex creation. So this perspective was so complex, was so profound, that the ancestors came to understand that a disease in an individual reflected weakness in the community. So in other words, if an individual was sick, the whole community was at a weakness or at a disadvantage. And in some cultures, you find that when an individual was sick, the elders would gather at the shrine to pray or appease or venerate the ancestors for healing in the community. So it was rather like it was so profound. So you find that the micro was affecting the macro. The small reflected the large. Health was a communal concept, not just an individual concept. So basically they're saying we are reflections of one another. I am because you are. That is the true meaning of Ubuntu. Let's continue. So let us understand, what is allopathy? Allopathic treatment is a system of medical practice that aims to combat disease by the use of remedies, as drugs or surgery, producing effects different from or incompatible with those produced by the disease being treated. Listen to this. Allopathic treatment. Basically, when you look at these tablets, which are also called silver bullets, this is referred to as allopathic medicine. And how does it work basically? It's a system of medical practice that aims to combat disease by use of remedies or drugs that produce effects different from those produced by the disease being treated. Okay? So the use of drugs with substances that produce the opposite effect. If you have a headache, you are given a painkiller. So what's the mechanism of action? These drugs usually have a sensory numbing mechanism of action to achieve the desired effect of stopping the symptoms. So basically, for example, pain is responded to with a painkiller tablet or syrup, which work by affecting the nerve and brain receptor cells. So the drug classifications under allopathic treatment include antibiotics, painkillers, suppressants, mood stabilizers, antipyretic, anti-malaria, antagonists, antiperspirants, antivirals, and vaccinations. So you notice that allopathic medicine, or this silver bullet theory, these tablets, usually work by numbing, or they are aimed at stopping the symptoms, aimed at stopping the symptoms rather. So let's continue and see why this system of treatment is not as effective as it looks. What are the disadvantages of allopathy or allopathic treatment? So I got this excerpt from a book, African Holistic Health, written in 1989 by an African-American doctor, Dr. Laila. You can get it from the internet, it's free. So I got this excerpt from it. So European Orthodox medicine, synthetic drugs and surgery is based upon a predatory military logic and is organized to treat symptoms in a triage method. African medicine is organized holistically to treat the spiritual, mental, and physical causes of disease. For instance, the body tries to maintain adaptability, which means adjusting holistically. Okay? Whenever the body is overloaded, but when you say overloaded, you say biochemically imbalanced. It tries to get rid of the toxic, imbalanced state. It uses urine and bowel movements. To keep it free from toxins. If the urine and bowels fail to eliminate toxins, then the skin is used for bowel movement. Give me a short break, I'll be coming back in a while. Meanwhile, you can listen to some music. So we are back, and basically we were talking about allopathy or allopathic medicine, where we said allopathic medicine refers to the use of drugs that treat symptoms with substances that produce the opposite effect. If you have a headache, they give you a painkiller. Yeah, if you have depression, they give you suppressants and mood stabilizers, yeah, to suppress that symptom. So what are some of the disadvantages of allopathic medicine? And I was reading from this excerpt here, where we were talking about European Orthodox medicine, which is basically a system of synthetic drugs and surgery based upon predatory military logic and organized to treat symptoms in a triage method. However, in contrast, African medicine was organized holistically to treat the spiritual, mental, and physical causes of disease. For instance, this doctor argues that the body tries to maintain adaptability or a balance. The body tries to stay in a state of balance, yeah? And whenever the body is overloaded, it tries to get rid of this toxic state. The body naturally adjusts itself, yeah? How does the body adjust itself? It uses urine and bowel movements to keep it free of toxins. If the urine and bowels fail to eliminate toxins, then the skin is used for a bowel movement. That's why you get pimples, bumps, blackheads, rashes. That's simply a way of the body trying to get rid of the wastes that are accumulating in the body. Yeah? So if this fails to cleanse the body, then the lungs and nasal cavities are used to get rid of toxins. So if the body is not able to eliminate the wastes that are the toxins that are accumulating in the body, it comes to a state where now the nasal cavity and the lungs are used to get rid of toxins. That's where you get your running nose, your sinuses, your bronchitis, and cataract. So basically, when you have a running nose, it's simply the body indicating to you that it's so intoxicated, yeah, with toxins, yeah, up to the point where now the nose is used to get rid of toxins in the body. So he continues to say that the body uses a warning signal such as a headache to notify you of a toxic state. Yeah? In African holistic medicine, the cause of a toxic state will be treated with massage, acupuncture, and aromatherapy, herbs, and a cleansing diet. European medicine, on the other hand, stops or suppresses the symptoms of disease with aspirin, cough suppressants, antihistamines, etc. So I learned one thing here, that when you have a symptom or a signal like a headache is simply the body's natural way of warning you or notifying you that, hey, there's something wrong in the body. Yeah, it's a signal that something's not right in the system. As I said earlier, the body is a holistic, intelligent creation, and it's capable of tolerating it's not just something that's so say expendable or very weak or useless. Yeah, it's an intelligent creation. So when you receive when you have a headache, it's simply the body's way of telling you, hey, there's something wrong. Perhaps you ate a wrong diet, perhaps you've overworked yourself. Yeah, it's simply a message. However, if you respond to such a signal by taking a painkiller, yeah, you've simply killed the messenger. Yeah, you've simply killed the messenger. You've killed the symptom but you've not really addressed the underlying cause of disease. I hope that's clear. For example, did you know that in your gut there exists a wide variety of essential bacteria and other biolife, without which important life aspects such as digestion will be absolutely impossible? Did you know that? If you look at this picture here, this is an internal simulation of your intestine, cross section of the intestines, and as you can see, we have some bacteria. The blue items are the bacteria that basically inhabit the lining of your internal lining of your intestines. Yeah, and these bacteria are there for important, crucial reasons. Yeah, they help break down large food substances into smaller particles which are easily absorbed into the body. These bacteria have important roles to perform. Yeah, they're not trying to kill you, they're not trying to destroy you, they are helping you. Yeah, you are helping them as much as they are helping you. This is what we call symbiosis. Yeah, so normally bacteria are a natural part of the ecosystem. You remember in the earlier slide where I showed you that Helicobacter pylori, which they told us causes ulcers, is virtually found in all human beings. Yeah, so you see that perhaps it's not the bacteria causing the disease, but a state of disequilibrium or imbalance that causes the bacteria to react harmfully on your body. Perhaps, for example, let me give an example. Think about this. If you eat, say, for example, a rotten diet, a rotten meal, you eat stale food that was decomposing, yeah, the bacteria might once this rotten food gets to the intestines, the bacteria might find this food offensive. They might find this food not fit for purpose. Yeah, so they might impress upon the lining of your intestines to send signals to your brain that, hey, you ate wrong food. Yeah, you ate wrong food. Yeah, and it's causing chaos inside here. Yeah, it's like now this bacteria complaining, hey, what are you doing? Give us good food, yeah, that we may live. However, if you respond now by now sending antibiotics down this channel, yeah, whereas it wasn't the bacteria that caused the illness in the first place, but the rotten food that you ate. Hey, you ate rotten food. You have a stomachache. You're diarrheaing immensely. But now, in your ignorance or in your lost approach, you say, let me kill this bacteria that are living in my gut, and you say, these bacteria are the ones causing the illness, when it was the rotten food you ate in the first place. These bacteria are a natural part of the ecosystem. They are not trying to destroy you, but they exist at a state of balance with the body. So, how did we get here? How did we find ourselves in this position? So, the ancestors possessed such vast knowledge of nature systems and their interconnectedness. Yeah. However, due to the devastating influences of wars, colonization, and slavery, such knowledge has either been forgotten, cast aside, demonized, or not practiced. Yeah. The ancestors possessed vast knowledge. I mean, you will walk up to any of our ancestors and ask them about, hey, grandpa, what does this herb do? What does this cure? Hii inatibu nini? Hii ni ya nini? And they will tell you the virtues and the importance of each and every herb, plant, fruit, for example. They were also aware of body energy systems, the arts of healing. Like you see this picture of this man with a drum. Do you know this? This was not just beating the skin of an animal and producing sound just for meaningless purpose. There was extremely huge significance in such a simple act of striking a drum in a certain rhythm. You see, the vibrations produced from this drum, the ancestors knew that just being in the vicinity of this drum and listening to that rhythm of the music from the drum conveyed some healing properties to your cells, to your body. Yeah, it had restorative qualities. Just listening to the drum aligned you with the universe. Yeah, these ancestors were, hey, let me continue. Even certain dances, yeah, certain dances conveyed healing properties, restorative qualities, yeah, and attributes. Even some postures, standing in some postures, yeah, running and dancing in certain forms conveyed some energies and connection with the universe. Yeah, it was a complex knowledge system. Our ancestors practiced science. Yeah. In fact, if our ancestors did not practice science, we would not be here today. Did you hear what I said? If our ancestors did not practice science, you and I will not be here today. Yeah. So for those of you who think that our ancestors did not have any knowledge systems, they were just dancing naked and marrying, that's the colonial mentality. That's what the colonialist wants you to think about yourself. But the truth of the matter is, our ancestors possessed much, much complex systems of science, yeah, without which we will not be alive today, perhaps. Yeah. So our ancestors were really in the in the life of cultivating spiritual technology, so to say. Yeah, cultivating spiritual technology to achieve their desired ends. So how did we? But due to the devastating influences of wars, colonization, and slavery systems, such knowledge came to be forgotten, cast aside, demonized. Yeah, so people who think ancestors are demonic. Yeah, you think your grandfather, your great grandparents were demonic simply because they had spiritual systems that do not align or do not fit your understanding, your colonized understanding of what's healing about. Yeah, let's continue. So how did we get here? So over the course of history, there have been some forces trying to come against these systems of natural healing. Yeah, naturopathic medicine, so to say. And there were basically these guys like the Rockefeller, who funded research, American Rockefeller. Yeah, these wealthy monopolists who funded a guy known as Abraham Flexner, together with Andrew Carnegie, to publish a book, yeah, or a report to enact what we now know as Western medicine. Yeah, this was the birth of Western medicine. Let me read it. What is the Flexner report? The Flexner report is a book-length landmark report of medical education in the United States and Canada, written by Abraham Flexner and published in 1910 under the aegis or under the guidance of Carnegie Foundation. Many aspects of the present-day American medical profession, stem from the Flexner report and its aftermath. And so, what does this report say? The report, also called the Carnegie Foundation, called on American medical schools to enact high admission and graduation standards and to adhere strictly to the protocols of mainstream science in their teaching and research. The report talked about the need for revamping and centralizing medical institutions. The need for revamping and centralizing medical institutions, very important. Many American medical schools fell short of the standard advocated in the Flexner report, and subsequent to its publication, nearly half of such schools merged or were closed outright. Colleges in electrotherapy were closed. Homeopathy, traditional osteopathy, eclectic medicine, and physiomedicalism were derided, and some doctors, traditional doctors, were jailed. Let's continue. The report also concluded that there were too many medical schools in the United States, and that too many doctors were being trained. A repercussion of the Flexner report resulting from the closure or consolidation of university training was the reversion of American universities to male-only admittance programs to accommodate a smaller admission pool. Yeah. So you notice that in ancient times, yeah, the ancestors used to practice homeopathic and traditional osteopathy and physiomedicalism, like massages and aromatherapy and acupuncture. These are Flexner and the Rockefeller advocated for the confinement or the deriding. The deriding is simply to demonize, yeah, to ostracize and to blackball these traditional practitioners of traditional medicine. And these practitioners of traditional medicine could be jailed for simply practicing traditional medicine. They simply wanted to centralize medical institutions, yeah, and you make it uniform across the board. And to date, we are living with the consequences of this Flexner report, yeah. And you can see how the misogynistic, yeah, the chivalry, the male chivalry, where they said women should not be part of medical training. Yeah, I mean, what's the I don't understand their logic. I mean, reverting American universities to male-only admittance programs to accommodate a smaller admission pool. In other words, women were not allowed to practice medical healing. Let's continue. So, this is the report. You can also just find it in the internet and just read. So, I have an excerpt of the recommendations propounded in the report. So, the first recommendation was to reduce the number of medical schools from 155 to 31 and poorly trained physicians. Number 2, they wanted to increase the prerequisites for entering medical training. Yeah. So basically this is where they tighten the rules and say, for like currently as it is, for you to enter into medical school, you need to have scored all A's, plain A's in your secondary education. So tightening the access to medical training. Yeah. Number 3, training physicians to practice in a scientific manner and engage medical faculty in research. Number 4, to give medical schools control of clinical instruction in hospitals. And number 5, strengthening state regulation of medical licensure. Yeah, I could play this video, so it captures everything I've been saying, and you'll understand the historicity behind
how John D. Rockefeller killed natural cures and alternative medicine. People these days look at you like a weirdo if you talk about natural cures and alternative medicine, holistic medicine, or healing properties of plants and herbs. And this is for a reason. There is a lot of politics and money involved behind our modern medical system. In this video, we will focus on the origins of our current medical system and history of modern medicine in the America. It all started with John D. Rockefeller, who was an oil magnate, a robber baron, America's first billionaire, and a natural-born monopolist. By the start of 20th century, Rockefeller controlled 90% of all oil.
I just want to enlarge this so that you can all see clearly. The video is called How John...
By the start of 20th century, Rockefeller controlled 90% of all oil refineries in the United States through his oil company Standard Oil, which was later split to a dozen of smaller companies including Chevron, Exxon, and Mobil. At the same time, around 1900s, scientists discovered petrochemicals and the ability to create a large variety of chemical compounds from oil. During this time, scientists were doing groundbreaking work to understand the effects of different chemical compounds on human life and health. Most of the essential vitamins and medicines were discovered, including vitamin B1, B2, biotin, vitamin C, vitamin A, vitamin D, and others. And research was being done to create these chemical compounds artificially in the lab. First synthetic vitamin C was produced in the lab in 1935. There was a great possibility to create all these pharmaceuticals from petrochemicals. And
give me a short break. I'll be back. So this marks the end of part 1. See you guys in the next part 2.